Thousands of hospital patients could die in the coming year if the Ford government doesn't implement mandatory staffing ratios. That warning coming from nurses here at Queen's Park today who say they are being forced to choose who to care for.
It is the most disheartening thing you can possibly do.
An emotional plea from Rachel Fleming, a registered nurse who says every shift in Ontario's understaffed hospitals forces an impossible choice: who gets treatment and who doesn't.
I'm so burnt out. I struggle to get up the next morning because I'm just so mentally drained from it.
There is a solution, one that has worked in other jurisdictions: mandatory 1-to-4 nurse-to-patient ratios. A new study by the union representing hospital workers has found if hospitals were staffed at that level, an estimated 4,000 lives and $700 million could be saved over a 2-year period. It also found with every patient added to a nurse's care, the risk of death increases by 7%. Would you say this happens daily where you have more than 4 patients in your workload?
Absolutely. The unknown is so dreadful. It's difficult, and it is getting worse and worse.
We're also told improving staffing ratios will entice nurses to come back to the profession. Currently in Ontario, there are 16,000 nurses registered, but not practicing.
What would bring them back? The hope and belief that they could provide quality care.
If nothing changes, there is a predicted shortfall of 33,000 nurses in the province by 2027. In a statement, a spokesperson for Health Minister Sylvia Jones tells us in part, for the 3rd year in a row, we have registered a record number of new nurses, adding a total of 50,000 new nurses, with another 30,000 studying nursing at one of Ontario's colleges or universities. Last week, the province announced it was investing $56.8 million to train 2,200 additional nurses.
We need to talk about the dire healthcare situation going on in Canada. Who's in charge, what's going on, and what's the bigger picture here? Welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. This is where we debrief internet culture, pop culture, and politics and everything in between from an independent perspective. And if that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell, and let's get into today's video. So I included that clip because I can't find it on the internet. I could only find it on TikTok yesterday. So here we are, okay? We're at a place in time where our nurses and doctors are admitting, guys, that they are choosing who gets to live in Canada and who gets to die. Be unalived. Okay? And with MAID being chosen in every 1 in 20 deaths, okay, that's a lot. We need to figure out how we got here. How did we get here? How many people had to be unalived, because I will be demonetized and my video will not get out whatsoever. How many people have to be unalived before you guys decided to say something about this? This is a huge deal. The fact that they're up there admitting that they choose every single day, they are letting people die, be unalived at the hands of the healthcare system, and they get to choose who lives. Nobody's going to ask how you guys do that. No, I'm sorry. Unions? How many of your hospital staff went to you and told you all of these things before you guys started to go to the news about this or do simply anything about this? Because here's the thing. Who in Canada, because obviously this is not just a provincial Ontario thing. Most places in Canada, when it comes to healthcare, not doing great in the slightest, okay? In Canada, hospitals are primarily run, and by the way, hospitals are independent corporations in Canada, but I digress. Hospitals are run by provincial and territorial governments, but also involve federal government involvement in funding and setting the national standard. Let me repeat that. The federal government is in charge of setting our national standard of care when it comes to hospitals and our healthcare system. And then it says, public hospitals are typically independent corporations overseen by the board of directors who manage the day-to-day operations and are accountable to the province, and they are accountable to the province. let me ask you, why have we not been blaming those people? Those people who are genuinely, and I am not saying that the provincial and the federal government are not to blame for this, but why are we not talking about the fact that there are people that oversee our hospitals and they manage the day-to-day operations and people are dying? How much do those people make? How much do those people make? Why is nursing such a shortage here? Well, I know why, because of the way that nurses, what I imagine happens, okay, in hospitals, and you guys can correct me if I am wrong, but this is what happened in the schools. They put all of these nice incentive, measures out there that look so grand on paper, like, I don't know, taking away the kids with disabilities safe space and putting them in the classroom with an EA, calling it a day, and just walking away from it and not hearing us out when we say, hey, this is not working. Maybe we can do other things like integrate them into art class, but this is truly not working. What I imagine is that there's a whole different people who are the frontline workers in the scenario versus the management up here telling them what to do. I don't know how hospitals in Canada are run, but I can tell you this. When I go in there and there is some questionable behavior. I've had incredible nurses. I've had the best nurses in the world, and I've had the worst nurses that you could ever imagine in the world. Okay? And you go in there and sometimes you're literally like, how is it your job to mentally torture me? Is it necessary? Oh my gosh, this bug is back. Okay, I got rid of it. And then you just think, like, who's in charge here? Is it your job to see? Sometimes I go into certain hospitals, because I've been in a lot when I was pregnant and things would happen. Some hospitals, genuinely, I'll give you an example, actually. One time my son and I were in the hospital, and usually in and out. And we were getting tested for, I don't even remember. I think there was a whooping cough, and they made us wait 4.5 hours and then tested him. Are you mentally torturing me? Why am I waiting in this room for 4 hours? Is it because I don't have that certain medication and you're discriminating against me? I genuinely don't know how it works sometimes. And when you see them sitting on their phones and you haven't even been looked at yet, you know what I mean? You're just a little dumbfounded sometimes. And then sometimes you look out and they're so busy and you just cannot imagine how much more people could end up in the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen both scenarios. You've seen nurses working their butts off, and you've seen nurses sitting on the phone doing nothing, which, by the way, I am somebody who has been in a public, like, I worked in the schools. I did not sit on my phone. Even when we were doing nothing and nothing was happening, do you think that would be a good look for anybody to walk in that classroom and see a staff member just sitting on their phones? So don't tell me, oh, we take our breaks. Go take them. It's not appropriate to be on your phone when I say the same thing about police officers, okay? You're all on the tax dollars dime, okay? I'd be embarrassed to be, wasting time. So who are the board of directors? Why is this happening across every single province? Well, I mean, we could, in that scenario, blame the federal government because they are in charge of setting the national standard of care in Canada. So if the national standard of care is allowing, 4 people to be gone per shift, per whatever this nurse said, that's the standard that they're allowing to happen overall in every province. It's not just happening in Ontario, although I will say, let me just say, the private sector that they started, that seems to not be happening anymore, at least where I am. The nurse practitioner saved my life. Being able to pay to go to that saved my life while I was waiting for a family doctor. So I have a different opinion after watching my grandma, die a slow, painful death. I have a different opinion on socialized medication. I still believe in it. I still think that we should have both options, though. We should have more than one option. When people are being offered MAID, when nurses are coming out and saying, hey, we have to make this decision, we have to literally decide what Canadians leave this hospital alive and which ones are not. How do we think this is something that just has happened? I don't think this just happened. I think a lot of things had to be ignored, like a standard code of ethics, like I have said 1,000,000 times over. How many times did you guys have to ignore the standard code of ethics for this to happen? Oh, wait, it's a lot. It's a lot. Why do you think you don't have teachers? Why do we think we have education shortages, education worker shortages, teacher shortages? Because nobody's listening to the teachers, and essentially, at least in this scenario, teachers are allowed and EAs are allowed to have the crap beat out of them, but I've also seen the other way around too. I've seen both, okay? And we're all unionized. So what are the unions doing? Are the unions really working for us, guys? We need to give our heads a shake. And part of the reason why people are so afraid to speak out is because of the unions. So, great. We've confidentiality'd ourselves into quite the mess, haven't we? Yeah. Tell me what you guys think. How does this get fixed? Oh, we go back to a standard code of ethics and hire more nurses. I really don't know how this could be accidental. I really don't. A lot of things have to happen for this to be the norm in our hospitals. So, Canada, may the odds be ever in your favor. And I'll see you guys in the next video.